to Building a Fighter. My name is Dr. Austin Shane, sports chiropractor in Scottsdale, Arizona. With me, as always, bad ass strength coach in Denver, Colorado, Alex
Can you hear me now?
Friedman. Oh, I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear. Today, we want to talk about tapering and peaking. It's getting to the end of a lot of wrestling seasons, and there's also a lot of fights coming up on both mine and Alex's end. So, something hot on our mind, something that can help you guys immediately going into your championship seasons. And, Alex, peaking and tapering, where do we
Well,
start?
the biggest thing that I see, and I think the toughest pill to swallow for a lot of coaches, like strength and conditioning coaches included, and skill coaches, wrestling coaches, double included, um, is taking down your practice volume. And you don't need to do extra conditioning after practice. If you're not in shape by this point in the season, yet those extra 10 sprints, that extra live wrestling, or that extra wonky conditioning drill that's just always been part of your program is not going to help in the last 3 weeks of preparation.
Bro, that's not even conditioning. That's just getting
For sure.
tired. Everybody needs to stop calling that conditioning because
Yeah,
that's bullshit. It's not the same thing as properly timed alactic
sure. It's
sprints,
yeah, and
right?
it's mostly like a push, make guys feel exhausted at the end of practice, like that it was really worth
Yeah.
something. And it's like, to me, again, it's like, just make practice worth something, right? Like, do
Mhm.
that thing well, so you don't have to be insecure at the end of practice. Like, we better run them, or they didn't work hard enough. It's like, no, let's just work them hard enough, like.
Well, that's the biggest thing is that it's
Mhm.
insecurity, right? That's for most of the people doing it, whether it's athletes or coaches, it's that they're not 100% confident that what they did in preparation leading up to this is going to give them the
Yeah,
result that they want. And that that just needs to be changed because it's only going to hurt you on that back end of everything, right? If you overtrain at the end, you're going to feel fatigued going into your fight or going into your
right. Which
conference
goes
tournament.
into our peaking tapering type of talk. Is at the end of season we need to taper down in volume. So you're doing, and about the best way to quantify this is practice just literal time on the mat. Right. We followed a good structure this year with the high school team that I coach, where beginning of season, October, November, December, it's pretty much 3 to 5:30. We're grinding, we're putting in all the good technique, we're making sure we get reps. Excuse me, we're doing everything well. And then January comes around. Okay, we're still working hard, we're still refining everything. January is a pretty competitive month for us. We're going to take it down. We're going to leave at 5, right? So that's back down to about hour 45, 2 hour practice, and then come, let's say, February. I think we did start doing this 3 weeks ago. So 2 weeks before regionals, and now we're in our state week. So that's a 3 week block essentially. We're getting out at 4:30, 4:45, right? So it's only an hour 15 spent wrestling. So tapering down in that practice time and mat time will allow you to be a lot fresher and have a higher intensity, and to, more for lack of a better term, feel better going into the postseason, and which is hugely underrated. I think just athletes' subjective feeling better.
Yes. Well, feeling good going into competition should be the number one goal.
True.
Like we've talked about that before, where one of our biggest indicators of success is going to be you feeling confident in walking into the fight or the match or whatever that you're doing. But one other way I wanted to pivot this too is coaches, if you're planning a tapering and a peaking cycle and we're trying to get to the end goal, which is championships, try to make the time of your practice matter
Right.
more.
Agreed.
So when I say that is like just like we peak and we taper in our intensities, you're probably not going to learn a whole bunch in your
Right.
last month, right? Unless it's like one specific technique. But like same with like fight stuff. You normally want to stop teaching new techniques like 2.5 to 3 weeks before the fight and just drill the stuff that athlete's been
Yeah.
doing over and over again in sparring to make it work. Like you don't need to go out there and make an extra 30 minutes of practice time of having these kids away from home, away from relaxation, and just watching you drill a one little variation for a single leg that's probably one person in that room might hit, if not zero of them. Like that's a waste of time in the
Mhm.
room that could be avoided if we focus on what you want your athletes to get better at. which not just learn, but get better at and implement into their matches or
Yeah, you're
into the
definitely
fight.
in more of a refining and perfecting type of mindset. Like troubleshoot your positions and make sure you cover what you've erred on before, or make sure we're sharp there. But yeah, it's not a time to whip out the new moves or try and teach new techniques or something like. Um, I think that time comes beginning of the season, middle of the season, somewhere in there. Like when we tapered our or when we take down our wrestling practice time to 5, it's like, hey, I'm just gonna hang out extra 5 minutes if you guys want to learn some extra techniques or something I'm seeing you can. And it was genuinely like a stay if you want to, not like a mandatory
Mm-hmm.
but optional type of bullshit, right? It was literally, if you want to do some more wrestling, you can stick around. If not, you're
Yeah.
gone, right? And so that's when you can start to work in some new stuff. And then that's your off season. That's really all your off season needs to be, is like,
Mm-hmm.
or your out of camp phase is like, let's add new tools, see which ones I like, see which ones I don't, get exposed to new styles. Just put more tools in my belt, my more weapons on my back, more availability and stuff. So your practice content should be curated along with the peak and taper volumes and intensity. So I completely agree with that.
Yeah, and the cool part is how you peak in strength and conditioning is actually extremely similar to how you
True.
peak in skill stuff, right? You want to decrease volume and you want to decrease complexity, right? I'm not adding new shit into your strength and conditioning routines 2 weeks before the fight. That's a waste of everybody's time. And it's an increase in complexity and making you think about just one
Right.
more thing when you should just be focused on one goal, winning the
Yeah.
fight. It's it's a kind of cool duality that both strength and conditioning coaches and skill coaches, that's why communication is so important, being able to talk back and forth between the two, are going to be tapering the same way, so we need to make sure everybody's on the same page in that tapering cycle.
Yeah, and that complements your intensity, right? We're talking about making practice time worth more. Like the less complexity that we add, specifically from a strength and conditioning standpoint, the more we can just go. We can be extrinsic. I don't need to
Mhm.
cue you on how to do this Zercher squat. We should have been doing this Zercher squat for about 3 or 4 weeks, right? So let's just get to work on it, and then we can drive intensities and outputs rather than what we talk about. I feel like a lot, or what we specifically talked in our trunk stability podcast is about, like internalization and feeling the movement, right? We that's not an end of camp peaking tapering type of
No.
discussion. End of camp peaking tapering is like, just fucking go, just explode, jump,
Right.
do anything as hard as you can. And you shouldn't have two thoughts about what's this new footwork, what's this new punch I'm throwing, what's this, how do I do this submission again? That is going to be a relatively sunk cost at the end of your fight camp, because more likely than not, you're not going to go to that submission you don't really know in a fight.
Right. Yeah, there's very few people that are that gifted at learning a
Right.
new skill that you're going to immediately implement that right away. Most of the time, what you're going to do under extreme stress situations, which is just
Hmm.
competition, is you're going to revert what you're most
Right.
comfortable with. 99.99% of the time, you're not going to be most comfortable with the thing you just learned that week,
True.
especially in a high stress match, which is
Right.
championship season.
And yeah, and there's something to be said for getting caught in positions that you didn't quite predict. But again, we're gonna bet on the fact that we can influence our style of match, and we'll end up in positions that we've seen before. So you definitely hope for that towards the end, and maybe not having your new skills put in or whatever. But I think there's, like we talked about, athletes feeling good. I think there's one more layer to this peaking and tapering that we're talking about, and that we can
Mhm.
definitely feed into from a strength and conditioning side, or even like a practice um, tapering side, which is the athlete's mindset, right? We can really zero in
Yeah.
on that, and that being our most important thing going into a fight. Austin, what kind of um, concessions or what type of additional things do you do for your fighters as they're peeking into their fight? Or do you think of anything mindset wise that you do?
I only do mindset with a
Sure.
few fighters. Most of the fighters I work with are pretty dialed in on that. Um, from like tricks that I do or what I try to have them do on their own, like mantras and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Because of course, like visualization, obviously a massive part of preparation going into fight week. If you can visualize what you think is going to happen, it is more likely
Right.
to happen, and it makes you more confident in preparation. like from the strength that, and that's more of things that the athlete can do
Right.
himself. Things that I do as a coach to increase different positions are or different confidence in going into fight week is I'll do as the lowest weight that I could for their favorite lift,
Okay.
right? And have them
Yeah.
explode. A lot of them are going to pick like a trap bar jump shrug or
Hmm.
something like that, where you get to you're jumping and shit. And I'll have them explode, and I'm like, do you see how fucking easy that feels compared to beginning of camp? You
Yeah.
got this. Like you don't even think about anything. Do you know how easy that fucking is? And of course, that's the first movement I pick. So the full energy
Yeah.
store, like, of
So
course,
you're
it's gonna be the best
gaslighting a
thing.
little bit,
But it
huh?
fuck it's gonna what is gaslighting, right? It's gonna make you more confident in
Sure.
what you're gonna do. As long as you trust the preparation and you trust that you did everything you could do as a coach to get them to their goal, what's wrong with giving them a little gas to light their flame, because that's just going to make them feel more confident in their preparation. Now, don't just go out there and fucking lie to somebody. Like if they show up to one session and they're going and fighting in the UFC for the entire camp, don't just be like, "Yeah, man, you're super conditioned, you're ready to go." That's fucking
Yeah.
gaslighting. Like you know that motherfucker's going to be tired and he's going to be weak. But if you guys have done anything and everything you can do and they just need a little bit more push or a little bit more confidence, fucking throw that at them. They're going to feel great and they're going to be able to feel more confident in everything because they can see and feel a difference in that exact same movement 8 to 10 weeks later.
Absolutely, man. And I think you gain a lot of confidence from that, but then it's like it's also automatic for the athlete. Like they get into their trap bar jump, right? Let's see, and it's like I know exactly how to do this. I can really focus on the outputs. I don't really have to, consider like the idea of am I good or bad at this does not even cross your mind. Right. And I
Yeah.
think that that's the
Like,
place you have to be in your mind. I can't be thinking like, what's this weird new thing?
yeah. And so I got a really cool story about that because I 1000% gaslit somebody I was cornering him and to make him feel more confident. And I knew it was going to happen. And he did the work and did everything and it paid off. And he went out
Yeah,
there and
there you
knocked
go.
him out. So Adam Stewart, my heavyweight boxer, we were doing those 90-90
Okay.
hip switches. And then we were going up into a shin box, and he hadn't been able to do those without putting his hands on the ground yet. And I knew, dude, he's been doing this. I mean, we had been working together for about 7 months at this point now. And I'm like, I know for a fact he does those at least twice a week for 2 to 3 sets of 15 each way. He can go up into a shin box by now, but I haven't had him try it yet, other than the first day when he tried and fell on his ass. So we're at the fight in the back. I'm warming him up. And I'm like, Adam, we're going to go 90-90s, but we're going to go into a shin box this time. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, man, like you got this. Like, I know I I didn't say it, but I'm like, I know the fuck he's gonna get there. He had no idea he was gonna be able to do it. He goes out there, fucking reps out just 10 each way. And he looked at me, he's like, I've never been able to do that. And I'm like, I know, dude. That's fucking awesome. Like, that's a testament to the work that we put in this entire camp. Like, go out there and do your
Yeah.
thing. Well, goes out there, gets a first round
Right.
knockout.
No, and yeah, that just
Like
put
it
primes him and puts him in the right mentality space. It's a little gamble for sure, but I mean, again, you are the only one that knows the risk in that. But
bro, I'm extremely confident in my
that's
abilities
we
in
fucking
that
know.
setting.
We all know, Austin. Um, but no, that's dope. Like you said, it just puts you in the right mindset. Like it's not gonna logically track, but it passes for excuse me for my millennial speak here. It passes the vibe check, right? Like
Passes the
I
vibe
know,
check.
right? That's
Ooh,
the key one.
you just got that much cooler by
But
saying
no,
that.
it just makes it puts somebody in the right mindset. And that's the mindset that I want my athletes to be in when they get to this championship season or they're like right before their fight. I want you to be loose. I want you to know that you put the work in, been confident in the work, and like, hey, we're just gonna go out there, have fun, we're gonna live but die by the sword. We're just sending it, right? We're not tight, we're
Mhm,
not anxious. I know there can be a lot of reasons for that type of mental stress going in. Like obviously there's a lot riding on a lot of opportunities that you have. But
mhm,
that's why at the end of this wrestling season, we started like, let's play games for a warm up. Let's do handball. Let's play slapback. Let's mix in some features to help enjoy and keep everything super positive and light. Because then our athletes are going to out there go out on the mat and they'll be able to just wrestle. They won't be so tight. They won't
mhm,
be so burdened down with expectations or with anxiety. Right. So it's like, hey man, it's your thing. Go out there and send it. Like, be confident in our preparation. Let's stick to the game plan, of course, but there's no reason not to be loose. There's no reason to
Yep.
be uptight, unless it is a case like you said where you haven't done the preparation. You're not confident
Mhm.
in your ability. So um, that confidence piece in the weight room, I think, is a big. I mean, I say weight room, but I mean in the practice room too. Is such a big piece of this peaking and tapering that you're supposed to both physiologically like feel good and be able to crush your workouts, but you're also supposed to mentally crush your workouts and get an extra boost from that. So
Mhm.
the way that we orchestrate that is exactly what we've been saying, right? We hit the same things we've been repping all year, all fight camp. We lower the volumes, which allows us to increase the intensity, which makes it feel like we're in the zone, makes it feel like we are crushing it. We lighten the atmosphere and make the mood a little bit more geared towards whatever your athlete needs. Like, and I say lighten the atmosphere. I like that. Some athletes need it to be serious. Some athletes, that's just their
Mhm.
personality, right? And that's fine too, but we allow the athlete to thrive in their environment.
Right, like that's Vanessa. Like she's happy go lucky until like the last 2 weeks of her fight camp, and then she needs it to be extremely serious the entire time. And it's cool to see the disparity because I was not
Right.
that way. I was the opposite. I'm like locked in when I'm trying to learn shit at the beginning of the year, and then as soon as it gets to the end, like I'm just fucking around the whole
Dude,
time.
it was a good learning curve when I was an athlete to figure that out. I
Yeah.
wrestled the best when I was loose and didn't give a fuck. You know, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna do my
Hmm.
best, I'm gonna have some fun. This is wrestling, it's a sport that I love and enjoy. Let's go see what I got. That's when I 100% wrestled the best. Anytime I got tight or like took myself serious or like, oh, it's a big match, I better crank up the music and hop around and make sure blah blah blah. It's like went out and wrestled like a can, right? Like just awful,
Yeah,
like straight up and down and just so tight. But um that's knowing yourself, right?
dude, that's what was cool when we beat Wartburg
Yeah.
that year. That's everybody we had. I remember. I can like remember that bench right there. Like after I think Ryan won or Dustin won or something, I went out there and won. Casey got a pin. Everybody, as soon as Casey got
Mhm.
that pin, everybody else's tension
Dude,
just melted. Like we were like, "Ooh, let's
that
fucking
was I'm gonna
go!"
paint this picture of Casey too, because that was one of the sickest things I've ever seen. Because I don't know where I've seen it around now, but that was the first time I ever seen anybody hit this technique. So he's our what is he 149 pounder. He's going out there. He's
Yeah.
wrestling number one ranked kid in the nation. This guy's super like technical, super tough. Casey is so loose and flowy. This is our old
Yep.
wrestling teammate from University of Wisconsin lacrosse. He's so unorthodox in almost every place that he wrestles, and so it's kind of like a gamble when you throw him out on the mat. It's like, man, he's either
Mhm.
gonna catch somebody in his funky stuff or he's going to be, you know, kind of throttled by the hustler, right? And it was that type of match where the other guy's moving a little bit better. The other guy's a little more intense. You can kind of see that. The other guy gets in deep on a single leg and like elevates it, right? And we're in a single leg position where Casey's on one foot, the other guy's has the foot elevated and is kind of trying to gather the other foot from behind. Casey leans back in and ankle picks him with his foot up in the other guy's chest, straight into a near side cradle and into a pin. And I'm just like,
Yep.
he did he just ankle pick that
I
guy
was
with
running my wind sprints after I was running my wind sprints after my
yeah,
match, and all I hear is like I was about to finish. All I hear is fucking whoa, fucking
yeah,
screams from everybody. I sprint back in there, and I just see Casey getting up there, just nodding
yeah,
his
it
head.
was wild, man. But yeah, I'd never seen somebody go back for an ankle pick with their foot in the air, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ. But yeah, that was huge
Yeah.
momentum in that match, so that was really cool. But like you said, it was loose. Everybody kind of
Yep,
let
it
it
was free
go.
flowing.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's part
but
of the argument for peaking tapering, right?
yeah. Well, I got one
Sure.
more piece, and then we could skedaddle. From the therapy side of stuff. One major thing that I feel like clinicians need to know is the closer we get to the fight, those same things that we were talking about with strength and conditioning and skill coaching also apply to on the therapy side. Like typically the closer we get to competition, the more that athlete might just need muscle work over dry needling. Like the more that athlete might just need a little bit more like manual work as opposed to
Yeah.
rehab. Like you don't need to be throwing. I love my DNS. You don't need to be throwing a new like highly dense neurologically or neurologic movement in as
Yeah.
their rehab. It's okay to just do a fucking lateral band walk and you can get the same goal. But there's a lot of different ways. Like we add in too much complexity sometimes at the end of camp because you want to help. You want to show them that they're going to get better. You want to do everything you can for the patient, but you're not going to fix anything in those 2 weeks. That's what you have to realize. It's we need to get them to the fight or to the matches as best as they can, and then once that they're done with competition, then we can start working towards fixing the issue. But in the short term, confidence is
Hmm.
king, and we need to go after building their confidence with an exercise they know that they can do, focused on the goal of their
Right, and
injury.
I feel like healthcare gets thrown into this position a little, like obviously a little bit more than strength or skill coaching does, but we have to at the end of camp or when we're peaking, you prioritize feeling good over actually fixing the issue, right? I
Yes.
get thrown in that position a little bit just with like low back stuff when people come in with super general complaints, but it's all about helping them leave feeling good. And like you said, maybe there's a systemic problem there, but if we're not going to fix it in the next 2 weeks, we kind of need to just focus on getting them to the fight, getting through it. Like there's you
Mhm.
see, and I mean, you can extrapolate that argument everywhere. Like maybe an athlete has a small flaw in their trap bar deadlift, but it hasn't hurt them for the
For
last
sure.
10 weeks, right? I'm not going to reconstruct and super cue how good they are at a trap bar deadlift 2 weeks before the fight, right? We're just gonna go. We're focused on outputs, and you can do the same thing with your skill coaching. Like maybe my athlete every time they throw their elbow wings a little bit, right? Like that is
Right.
an error that yes needs corrected, but not in this exact point in time, right? So, um,
Yep.
and again, healthcare is in that position more frequently because of a flaw in our society that we only go seek out healthcare when something's wrong. But besides the point, um, right.
Soapbox
But
jumped off.
yeah, prioritize the feeling good aspect rather than the kind of systemic problem as we're peaking and tapering, as we're getting lower on all the volumes, as we're decreasing the junk work, we're increasing the intentional high intensity focused works. So lower volume, higher intensity, better vibes, quote unquote. So
All about the
does
vibes.
it pass the vibe check, Austin?
I believe this conversation did. So, if you guys got to get in touch with us at all of our information is going to be at the show notes. That's going to be both our emails and our Instagram. We have our programs, we have our memberships, we have free content. What you need to do is head on over to our website, buildingafighter.com. That is buildingafighter.com. That's going to be where you get all the different programs, memberships, merch, anything to support us in supporting you guys. So head over there. The membership option, there's going to be 4 different options: our Building a Fighter membership, as well as strength, mobility, and conditioning. So different ways to boost all of those different uh, tactics. So this is Dr. Austin
Alex
Shane,
Friedman.
and we are